Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to my channel. I am Crystal, and this is Homemaking on the Homestead. And today I'm going to do a little coffee with Crystal as I sit here and enjoy my morning cup of coffee and, just talk to you about a few different things. I've got a couple books to share, and we're going to talk about menu planning and frugalness and a couple other things I want to share. So grab your cup of coffee and let's have a little kitchen table talk this morning. I always start off these Coffee with Crystals with a little bit of, what I am doing in my kitchen and what kind of dinner plans I have. So I have, tonight it's kind of a use up some leftovers and a little bit of creative use of leftovers as well. So last night we put some salmon patties on the barbecue, and I buy those from Costco, and they're delicious and a nice treat to have once in a while. But I still have 2 of them left. And so my son is here again visiting, and so that's not going to be enough for all of us. And I also had a bowl of rice that was left over. Not long ago I made my daughter some chicken gravy and rice, and I had a little bit of rice left over from that. And again, not enough to really feed all of us a single meal, but we're going to do just a little bit of buffet planning and have a little of this and a little of that. So I decided to kind of keep with the seafood theme since I had the salmon, and now I'm going to turn the rice into some tuna fried rice. And I have these veggies that also need to be used. I had 3 green onions left, and they were not looking that great. I had to kind of cut the tops off and give those to the goat. And anyway, I'm going to add up those veggies to that and my spices, sauces there, and turn that into a yummy dinner. So between all of that, and I have a salad already made, so all of that should be a delicious dinner for us. I've always been really big on, as you all know if you've been with me for a while, but on frugal cooking and frugal meals. They can still be really tasty and really good. Like my tuna fried rice is absolutely delicious, and it doesn't really cost a whole lot. And there's just a whole world of frugal meals. A lot of them I've shared over the years. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit more today and show you a book that I got a while back. It's called Be Thrifty. And again, I buy all these little, thrifty books to see, well, what kind of information? Is there anything new? Is there anything inspiring? And usually there is. So this book is written by Pia Catton and Calafia Suntree. Let's just see, maybe a little bit closer here. And what I thought was neat, I got this from Thrift Books, by the way, and the one of the authors there, this was actually a signed copy. How cool is that? I don't know who she is. I've never actually heard of her before, but she's written a nice book. It's kind of an interesting format because it's a hardcover book like that, like a board book type thing. But anyway, very nice. So she has a chapter called Lower Your Overall Food Costs. I thought she had some really great tips in here, so just to give you an idea, I'm just going to run through some of her tips, and I'm sure a lot of us already do these things, but maybe there'll be something new. Avoid restaurants. We do that. We rarely eat out. We do, when we go to visit our kids and things like that, we will go out, and oftentimes with my older children, we will take them out, any ones that live close by, we will take them out to dinner on their birthday or something like that, but by and large, we're not big restaurant people or fast food restaurant people or anything like that. So that's definitely a good one in order to cut your costs down. Set a realistic grocery budget. That's good too. She says that's easy to do but can be difficult to stick with. If you feel like you have any challenges with self-discipline when it comes to sticking with your grocery budget, she recommends bringing cash, and I think that's a good idea. Eat food that's more economical. But I really like this section that she kind of had on that same line of thought. She says, all too often, eating cheap means eating badly. It's the greatest slice of pizza that costs only $2. A hot dog and a soda for lunch will set you back maybe $4. But historically, the most inexpensive foods were simple to gather, easy to cook, and healthful. It's only in recent decades that the cheapest foods were processed and industrially produced, leading to an epidemic of obesity and other health problems, obviously, as well. And I totally agree with that. When I was raising my 8 kids, and we lived on one income, I focused on just basic foods, things like beans and rice and other whole grains and homemade bread and meat. And I was able still to turn those basic foods into literally hundreds and hundreds of different recipes. And a couple of her other ones are make foods from scratch, which we know that, and stop throwing food away. I think that that's big. I really have a big, I don't know what to call it, just like, I hate food waste, pet peeve. I hate food waste, and I do my best. That's why we're using up rice tonight. I just don't like to throw away food. She had an interesting fact on that. She said, waste not, want not. Every year, the average U.S. household throws away at least 470 pounds of food, according to research by the University of Arizona's Garbage Project. That equals 14% of the food that's brought into a family's home. That's a lot. That's a lot. And it is, it's part, I think it's really a part of homemaking household management, that we stay on top of our food and look at it for the amazing resource that it really is. God has provided that food for us. Let's be good stewards of what He has provided. I've always said, if you were handed the equivalent of the amount of money that you throw away with that food, would you take that money and then just toss it into the garbage? I don't think anybody would do that. That would be considered, foolish. But in a sense, that's what we're doing when we waste food. So learning to cook from scratch really helps us to learn how to utilize these resources better. And if you have something sitting in your refrigerator and you're not sure what to do with it, you could always freeze it for a day or two while you think and look up recipes, look through cookbooks, and find ways that you can use that little bit of rice or a little bit of something left. And my favorite, of course, which I've mentioned many times in my videos, is always freezer soup. So toss all those goodies that you have left, like the rice or the beans or the meat or whatever, into a freezer bag. And when it's full, then you can pop it into a soup pot, add some broth, season it, and you have a whole new dinner. I should say this book came out in 2010, so it's slightly dated, but still, it's a really good book. Aside from the section on menu planning that I just read to you, she has so many interesting things in this book. How to cut hair. And what I really love is that, I have it marked here so I can show you guys. Look at that. She has really neat diagrams, goes into it step by step, and and she does this a lot through the book. She has like how to cut up a chicken. She has how to make bread with pictures, and even simple things like how to make a new lampshade. And then she gives you drawings and instructions. She has things about taxes, how to take the best advantage of tax things to make the most, to maximize your money that you bring home the most. The other one that got my attention was she has a chapter called Home Sweet Thrifty Home, and she talked about painting wood floors. And I know people are going to be like gasping, but I had a story I wanted to share with that. My mother-in-law and her husband lived in had a beautiful home in Seattle. It was actually the home that she grew up in, and eventually it became her home. And it had beautiful hardwood floors throughout the house, and those were definitely worth, the effort and expense to refinish them and to bring them up to a nice standard, because they had been neglected for many, many years. But she had a whole back porch area covered. It was like you walk into that before you walk out into the backyard. And the wood floors on it were in horrible shape, just horrible shape. And so she decided to paint them. And she used a really heavy-duty, I think, marine type paint, and then put polyurethane over them, and they looked absolutely beautiful. So it's always an option if you don't want to replace the floors, or you just want to keep the look but don't want to go through the expense of having to have them refinished and all that. consider painting. It might not be a bad option. But anyway, this book is just full of a lot of neat little tips, tricks, and how-tos, fixing things instead of throwing them away. I've talked about that in the past. So definitely, you know, as I always say, look in your library, look through thrift books, garage sales, something like that. Maybe it'll turn up somewhere. And I will leave a link at the bottom, or at least the book information, so if you're interested, you can write down the authors and stuff like that. So that was my little blurb on meal planning and making the best of your resources in the kitchen, and giving you a little overview about that book. And, you know, there's lots in that book, so I may bring up other topics in other videos just so we can have a nice little discussion on it. Okay, the next thing I wanted to share with you today was the value of a homemaker. And I have this little tiny book that is literally packed with so much inspiration and encouragement. I don't know any other way to say it. And the book is simply called Homemaking. The authors I will write below and show you up there, because as of right now, there is no way I am going to even consider trying to pronounce those names. I have no idea how to pronounce them. Just a gem of a little book. It was originally published in 1976, and in 1997, they did a revision of this book. I believe, yep, 1997, they did a revision of this book and added a little Bible study at the end of every chapter. Just to give you a flavor, this is actually the last chapter of the book, but just to give you a flavor of this book, because I found this so encouraging when I read this. This comes from chapter 13, The Value of Homemaking. A woman is often referred to as the heart of the home. Many of us may remember how cold and empty the house seemed when Mother was not there and when we came home. It is not only what a woman does, but the person she is that makes her the heart of the family. The contribution of the homemaker is far-reaching. She influences not just those who live with or near her, but the people who are guests temporarily, those within her church, and others in any part of society she touches. Anyway, it goes on from there, but just a really, that was encouraging to me, and I can totally relate. I remember coming home, and my mother might have had something to do as a young girl, coming home from school. And maybe my mother was gone. She was always a stay-at-home mom until I was about 12. But there were times when she had something to do and wasn't there when I would come home. And oh, the house did feel so different. And even at times when I've been gone, leaving my kids behind with my husband or whatever, you know, I come home and they're like, "Oh, Mom, we're so happy you're home. It's so good to see you." And times that I've been gone and my husband's been alone, and he's just so thrilled when I do come home, because now the house feels like a home. Says a lot for the value of the homemaker, doesn't it? In the little, just to give you an idea, the little Bible study section, they have, in this one, they want you to rewrite Proverbs 14:1 in your own words. And it's, of course, that is, a wise woman builds her house and a foolish woman tears it down. And then they ask you, what are some of the ways you build your home? I thought that was a really interesting question, because obviously we're not talking, you know, building the home as in the structure. So what are some ways we as women build our home? So some of the ideas that came to my mind were, number one is building up our husbands and encouraging them, working on our marriages and keep them strong. Divorce is huge in this country, so having a good, stable home is very important. Keeping the Lord number one in your priorities, keeping a peaceful home, keeping a clean home, keeping an organized home, things that, loving on the people that are in our home, and giving them a positive, peaceful life and a place that they want to come back to. Those were just a few of them that were on the top of my head as I read that, how we build our home. And I know there's more. If you have any more to share, you know, please let me know down in the comments. Anyway, a really good book. Again, I got this off of Thrift Books. I think I've seen it on Amazon, and always make sure you check Amazon's used books. Oftentimes you have to pay shipping on those if you're not Prime, but sometimes the cost of the book and the shipping are still less than a book is brand new. So always make sure you look at all your options, and you can always see if the library has it, like I said before. Okay, well, don't forget, ladies, to let me know down in the comments what you guys are having for dinner. Let's spread some inspiration and dinner ideas around while we're while we're down in the comments. Let me know how your day is going. I hope you all have an awesome and blessed day, and I really thank you for being here. And please don't forget the likes. That really it helps me out a lot as I'm watching my channel grow. It's great, and it's very much appreciated by me. And if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, would you consider subscribing if you like my content? Okay, guys, I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.